All right, is everybody relaxed? Everybody ready? Okay, let's go ahead and get started. All right, so what's going on, y'all? Welcome to our Charmed and Dangerous panel. I'm so excited for this one because y'all know this is one of my favorite episodes, and I feel like this one was just chocked full of discussion. It was just chock full of plot heavy things. I mean, there was so much that happened that we could kind of like pick apart. The best part of the episode though is when Leo gets hit with the dark light arrow. Like everything in that moment is perfection. And I have absolutely no notes, no nothing. But I guess I'm gonna open up the floor now. What were some standout moments for you this episode that you thought like this is why this episode is great? And it can be a specific reason, it can be a specific scene or just a moment, a part of the episode, whatever the case may be. Is there something that was just aching? I'll start off. I will go ahead and start us off. Um, for me, it definitely Paige's storyline this episode, but really just the entire fight with the source itself is so iconic that it just felt like that action is what Charm needs from time to time, because I think that they really started to benefit as we got into later seasons when they started actually fighting the demons. So not just like a cute little, oh, I'm gonna throw my hand at you, I'm gonna freeze you. No, like when they actually started battling demons, it felt like this is what the charmed ones are supposed to be. This is what these witches are. And watching them go up against a source and have to come up with like a battle tactic and come up with a potion and a spell and a this and a that, like that was my favorite part, was watching them put into play everything that they've learned as witches over the past 3.5, 4 years. Jim has his hand up.
Who? Who? Jim? Okay, third
Give me,
third
give me
weekend in a
Anthony. Give me
row. I
Anthony.
love it. Third weekend in a row.
No,
Yes.
I said Jimmy Anthony. Go ahead.
Excuse me. It's so funny though. You literally said exactly what I was going to say. Like that's my literal favorite part of the show, the tying of magic. Like the essence of magic is there with good, with evil, with the Guardians of the Hollow. There's so much magic and it's just all for me, that's what Charmed about. Obviously, it's about three witches, and it's just fulfilling magically, like supernaturally. Like, there's just a presence of magic that is needed in every episode that we get in this specific episode. It's simply amazing in that aspect.
Oh, I agree. I absolutely agree. Especially with them being in the game for so long. Like this felt like, and kind of in season 4, what we've noticed is that especially when the source is involved, the source is using magic at every single turn. And I think that he added that little oomph to it that made it feel extra magical. So I 100% agree. 100%. Tyrante has his hand up.
Hey, hey. Um, I would say for me is seeing the seer come to the forefront. Um,
Mm,
because I like the long game type of mindset. And
mm-hmm,
that's definitely the perspective she's given from her visions.
mm-hmm,
Um, so right now she's starting to play her pieces right as we know. Um,
mm-hmm.
especially using Cole as her strongest pawn.
Mm-hmm.
So just seeing her playing out her moves ahead of time
Right.
before executing on Phoebe and the girls.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It made her feel very smart, like someone we have to watch out for. Like she was giving me very much season long villain, if I'm being 100% honest.
Yes, she should have had her own arc.
Mm-hmm. Child. She sure should have. That's gonna forever stick in our craw. Cause she should have been like the season 5 villain, honestly.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Jim has his hand up.
I love the seer in this episode for sure, but I want to double back to the source and say, like, I think I will go back and say that that might be my favorite part of this episode now. Like, with these new theories that I have, that he's from a different type of magical background, not necessarily a demon background, and I know we'll get into that, but there is, I think that's my favorite part of the episode, seeing the source just clock in. Like he was ready at every turn. But he was also like psychotic. Like there was so much going on for him. He was just like, especially after getting stabbed. He was just like ready to turn up on these girls. Like, listen, I'm getting to this fear. Listen, like it was manic, and I
Hmm.
loved every bit of it. I loved it.
He said we're done. He said we're done playing games. It's time for the big boys and the big girls to come into play now.
And I'm both of them. That's what he came in as. I'm the big boys and the big girls. He's like, listen, I'm here.
Baby, him and his dirty stiletto nails and that little half a beard, baby. It's not even a half. It's a piece. It's a fiction. It's a piece of fiction. It's not even. I don't know what that's supposed to be. I don't know what he's proving with that. I'm telling you, I think the fireball or whatever it is that disfigured his face and took that eye, it had to have taken that beard too, and he's just holding on to the remnants, and I don't know why.
It's proven like as Crystal saying, it's proven how unhinged he is.
Hmm.
Like I don't even have time to shave my beard. Get out of my face.
Get out of my face. We got to go. We got to fight. But you know what, though? Speaking of the source, kind of and him being unhinged this episode, this is when we get the face reveal. We get a chance to see the source for the first time. We get a chance to see him interacting like really personally with the seer in a way that he didn't with the Oracle. And I know that someone in the chat of the rewatch had said that his reveal was a little bit, underwhelming. But for me, I kind of think that was the point, and it goes back to, like I said, was something that you had said before, Jim, that the source is kind of like just a demon or magical entity. I'm gonna say or magical entity. He could have been a witch or whatever. That rose through the ranks. And I think this is where we start to see those little cracks and evil that they're not maybe as together as we think sometimes. Like he just happened to be the one who got up there to the role of the source. So how did everyone feel about seeing the source for the first time? Were you underwhelmed? Were you kind of like, oh, is that what was underneath that hood? Anyone have any thoughts about that? Jim Anthony has his hand up.
Oop.
Oh,
No, go ahead, Diamond. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, because I just couldn't get to it fast enough, and I was like, let me just go ahead and start talking because I didn't want there to be too much dead air. But I definitely will respect the hand raising next time, but not this time. I'm just kidding. Um, I was yeah when so it was Andrew that had said that the face reveal was a little underwhelming, and I had responded saying like that's what I like about it because for me the source was such a flop in regards to like how what we actually got as far as the source's storyline, like his actual storyline, what we got from him versus what he was built up to be. And I don't know, I don't know if it was intentional by the writers to have it be that way because I feel like it makes sense to present him because they say it. They do say like he rose to power in a battle. So he was just a demon who was out here living his demon life. Like, yeah, there's some credence to the idea that he could be something else. But as far as what we understand him to be, he was just a demon. Because even if he did start off as a witch, he would have had to transition to become a demon well before he became the source. So he was just a demon, building power, building alliances, gaining more and more power, and he eventually a big battle happened where he was able to become and be crowned as the source, right? Like that's what it is. So he is not some legendary, long, mythical, evil, like ancient evil being, right? Like he's not something, he's just a demon who rose in the ranks and has been the source for, a very long time and has gained a lot of power and prestige and loyalty to some degree from the demons and warlocks that kind of the warlocks not as much, but the demons that are his sort of, I guess, like his, what do you call it when you're a king? Your
Uh,
civilians? I don't know what you call it. What do you call it
oh,
when
oh God. Your subjects.
subjects, yeah, subjects. Yeah, so right, so like the demons are kind of like his subjects, and they have some loyalty to him, but it's really not to him, it's to whoever is in that throne, so to speak, right? And so that's kind of how I always viewed it. So when we finally do get the reveal, the face reveal, I think it is both underwhelming and spot on because the source has been built up to be something bigger than just a demon, right? But when the face reveal happens, you realize, no, he's just actually just an extremely powerful demon, the most powerful demon. That's all he is, right? And like, yes, that is a very scary thing because like he was putting these girls through the paces this episode, which is one of the reasons why I like it so much. Is like you said, like we're doing magic, but it's not even just magic. Like for me, sometimes my biggest complaint about Charmed is that the stakes aren't high enough, or like we treat the stakes like they're not high enough. We say that people's lives are at stake, but we're lollygagging a lot. So it can't be both. Someone's like, you can't say Phoebe's life is on the line, but your white lighter just orbed out. Like, y'all need to figure it out yourselves. Is Phoebe's life on the line or not? So sometimes I feel like they don't treat the stakes like where they should be. And I feel like in this episode, we really got them treating the stakes like like at every moment, somebody was dying in a scene. Like Phoebe died, not died, but like Phoebe could have died in like that first, when she got those shards in her back. So I feel like the stakes are where they really should be. And that's what I really like about this episode. But with the source, I feel like the face reveal was so spot on because he really just is an extremely powerful demon. So there doesn't need to be some otherworldly anything about him, really. But then it's also kind of underwhelming because you're like, oh, he's been built up to be something so much more big, especially with like the red hands and the tapping and the sword and the wings and the all the pageantry that we got before the face reveal. It kind of felt like we were gonna get something that looked a little bit more like animalistic, otherworldly, and it's just a dude, with the bad beard. And we see them all the time. So yeah, so that's kind of how I feel. I think it was maybe potentially a very good intentional thing the writers did, and if not, then yeah, it was a little under.
I think, something you said made me start thinking when you say like his appearance in season 3 and the kind of the way we get him with the wings and the sword and he just looks and he's sitting on a throne, he feels like he is the leader of evil. And I I think what I kind of like about the way that we get him here, there's literally no way that they could have gone further than that. Charmed could not have, let me say that. Like I feel like what they gave us there was a really good representation of like how powerful he was, how important he is in their hierarchy. And because I still feel like this show is through Phoebe's perspective, and I could be wrong, of course, because I'm just making it up, and I'm talking as I say, or just making it up as I say this. When we first get him, it makes sense because he's such a mysterious being, and we've been hearing him spoken about for so long that when we finally get this image, it's like, oh my God, like he's very, very intimidating. And so, what I kind of like about this reveal is it reflects where we are. Phoebe is not this vulnerable person, and I'm centering it on her. Yeah, I mean, it really could apply to all of them, but I'm just using her really because of the combat moment between them. Um, she's not that vulnerable person anymore who just sees everything as like this scary big thing. Like the worst has happened now. And now, when we see the source, he's just a guy. Like, like he's just a guy. And I think that's because Phoebe had gotten to the point, really all of them had gotten to the point, well, I'm gonna say her and Piper, where the demons they were confident in being able to take the demons out now, and it wasn't this kind of foreign concept. And they had, they've now been to the underworld, they know what it looks like down there, things like that. It's not a mystery anymore. And so I think that's another, like, on a deeper level, kind of what I enjoy about his reveal is that cloak has literally been taken off, and there's no more wondering and hinting and oh my God, what is it like? And it's so scary and it's so dark and so this and that. Like they know what the worst is and they faced it. So like his reveal to me is I mean, and then he was just so sassy. He's just so sassy. When he first came in, he kind of looked at him like, now what? I was like, oh, ooh. Are you gonna kill him or y'all gonna have a cat fight? What's going on? Because my boy he was kind of cutting up. I saw somebody's hands up, but I don't. Okay, so Jim has his hand up. Somebody else had theirs up, but I don't remember who it was. But Jim has his hand up, so.
It was Tyronte.
Oh, okay.
Um, so the original question was about the reveal, right, of the
Yeah,
source.
about yes.
Um, so to answer the that question, so I enjoyed this type of reveal. Like I agree with you guys in thinking that it doesn't need to be some big to do, although in my opinion, I didn't really yes, they built him up to be all this mysterious figure and whatnot, but I never really like made a charm for me was never really about like these big reveals because they just throw the demons in there. But with the source, it felt a little different. However, I enjoy this reveal because it's not it's not a demon beyond our knowledge in the charmed universe. It's not beyond something we've gotten before, you know.
Hmm.
Um I enjoy like the battle scars. I enjoy that he's looked like he worked up, worked his way up in the rank. He looks like he's been through magical fights and maybe even fights with the razor. I don't know. But I definitely enjoy the type of reveal it was for him because again, to me, it adds to my theory of a different type of magical being.
Hmm.
Now, I don't want to rant, but I also do want to respond to a couple of things that was said earlier because I really enjoy the line of rising through the ranks.
Hmm.
And that for me, I don't answer me or correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't remember the line being a demon rising through the ranks. Was it before considered?
No, he just said that, it was the battle
The
that brought
source
power.
had to rise through the ranks to become this evil entity, right?
Yeah.
So to me, to say it's only a demon and he's the biggest, strongest demon, I actually don't even remember somebody referring to him as like the strongest demon, only the most evil presence, or like the most evil that there is in the world, right?
Yeah.
So having this rising the ranks or good or a magical entity becoming evil or choosing to become evil is easily shown in the show all the time. The charmed ones, all they have to do is like the right pot of coffee and they're evil that
Oh,
day. You know what I'm saying? Like no, like
but
they
you're
are
right.
shown to be so easily transitioned into evil that it doesn't like really it's not really fair to say that it's so hard to do or needs to be played out like over a long period of time because we see it in minutes of an episode that like it happens in an hour. Like basically when Prue's kidnapped and the girls are turning into warlocks,
Yeah.
page by page, spell by spell, it is easily done with them. And I think it's only fair to at least give a path towards he may be something that transitioned into um an evil entity or allowed himself to this become this evil entity to accept the source's power.
Hmm.
That
That
makes sense?
no, it does. It does. And
I
it
know that was kind of long-winded.
well, no. I'm glad you explained it like that because it kind of puts me in mind of like how elders can be king. I mean, elders can be like witches, and then they become essentially a white light or white lighter adjacent being, whatever or at least a witch that has white lighter powers now. Like because we don't really know how that process goes. I honestly could see something where it works in that same way, where a witch or whatever can become an elder because it's like I mean an elder, the source, because it's again that access to power, and like you're saying, he's kind of the embodiment because he houses the spirit or the entity, the whatever of the source. Then it would make sense that that essence could go into a witch, an evil witch, or whatever. It kind of makes sense in that same vein. When you explained it like that, that's what made me start thinking that, because magic is so fluid and it really does flow, and it can flow in one direction or it can flow in another. It's just all about the choices that you make. And I appreciate you sharing that viewpoint. Um, mhm. No, go ahead, go ahead. I saw you unmuted.
No, I was just gonna respect you and just respond to that. I I appreciate you appreciating it. Appreciating it.
Of course. That's what we do. That's what we do around here. So speaking of fluidity, access to power, things like this, we were introduced to the Hollow in this episode, and the Hollow is described as this thing that existed long, long ago, at least 3,500 years ago, which is a very short period of time. But I'm gonna hush. I'm gonna leave that alone because I feel like that's just a random number somebody pulled out. It was like, what's a long time ago? 3,500 years. Alright. Because now I want to know what was going on around the time of the avatars. Like, were the avatars in the Hollow running around? Anyway. I don't even that's not important. Um, the Hollow is an entity that is kept in a box, and good and evil had to come together, and the only thing they could do was contain it. And that's some powerful magic. There's some powerful, a very powerful entity, and one of the things that we noted is that they have their security guards are an angel and a guy in a coat. So what I'm not understanding how we got from point A to point B. So kind of my viewpoint on the Hollow is it feels like it was semi underutilized for just how dangerous it was and the potential that it had. I almost feel like they shouldn't have been able to contain it at the end of this episode. That fell a little flat for me. So does anyone have any kind of thoughts on what you would have loved to have seen more from the Hollow? Would you have liked to have seen more information about it? Things like that. Would you have liked to learn a little bit more about the Guardians? Because what's interesting about them is the angel who was the guardian for good, she telekinetic orbed or remote orbed or whatever you want to call it, which is very interesting because now that Paige is here, it just feels like, oh, if you're a good being, you can do that. Jim Anthony has his hand up.
Even thinking about the orbiting, excuse me, the telekinetic orbiting or whatever you want to call it, but I definitely want to think about that one. But how I want to see more of the background with the Guardians. Not necessarily the Hollow because I like it as a mysterious entity that we don't necessarily know how it was created. Well, we don't know how it was created or if it just came to be. Like I like that mystery. Like I like having that in a show that well, I was getting ready to lie and say they explain everything, but they usually at least give us a connection to something, you
Right.
know, some kind of not necessarily origin, but some kind of origin adjacent
Mhm.
story. But I would have loved to see more of the Guardians, even if we just got a flashback to why they agreed on containing the Hollow or how they did it, because we then get the Battle of the Source, and he took them out one, two, three. You
Yeah.
know, well, not even he didn't even have to get to three. Like that man took them out of here and left her halo ringing. Okay.
I was so tickled by that because I said, "Now he done knocked the halo off the lady."
And in the book, like this guy is described as a devil. So what does that mean?
Mm-hmm.
An
Mm-hmm.
angel and a devil. So he wasn't a demon.
Well, and what was so interesting to me in that moment is how loyal that guy still was to the source. So that made me wonder how long has our source been the source? Because he recognized him. So I don't know if it's like he could actually, well, he might not have actually recognized him per se, because Cole said that the source does exert magical energy to let his presence be known so they know who's around. So maybe he just did that so that because the demon kind of like had to muster up the strength to hit him with that little weak lightning bolt. And I say weak just because it was like the source just got back up. Like he said, "Okay, girl. Okay, Miss Mamas. Anyway,
I
um,
think it was more reluctance, no?
no, yeah, no. When I that's why I said muster up the strength. Like he had to muster it up.
Ah,
Like
okay, okay.
okay, okay. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it. And you could see it in his face, like he was like, "Okay, this is important," but he still at the end defaulted and was like, "All right, let me not go too far, just in case." Which brings up a lot of questions for me, like, how deep does this loyalty go? Like, is it a loyalty that's like programmed into demons to be that level of dedicated to the source? I was just curious about that. But no, I definitely would have loved to have seen more about like how they picked those two entities to become the Guardians. Cause, you know, um it was kind of giving nothing, if we're being 100% honest about it. And because I mean, oh girl, she didn't get a chance to do nothing. We don't know what kind of power she had other than telekinetic orbit, or remote orbit. And I'm gonna tell y'all why I keep going back and forth between that. But go ahead, Jim Anthony.
No, go ahead, please, because it may add to my what I have to say. Please go ahead.
Well, I just the reason I always kind of go back and forth is because like I always try to give Paige telekinetic orbit because it was something that was so unique to her. And I've kind of read about remote orbiting, and it's basically telekinetic orbiting without telekinesis necessarily. It's more like a teleportation method. So it's kind of splitting hairs a little bit, but it's just interesting that now they can do this because Leo, when he becomes an elder, he can do it. So it's just I just kind of hate the path to taking the specialness away from Paige, but that's a me thing. That's not something that I think contributes to like the quality of the show or anything. I just kind of hate that it was done so casually because it almost felt like, yeah, we can just do this now. No one ever thought to do it before, but now all of a sudden beings can just do it. But go ahead, Jim Anthony.
I I totally understand your point in protecting the specialness, if you will, of Paige's gift. But I think I have an answer to the whole splitting hairs thing because remote orbiting, right, is like something that Paige was doing when she was calling for that ring, right, from the
Yes.
warlock.
Yes.
Um so if we think about it that way, right? I know we haven't gotten there in the rewatch, but when she's changing, well, you know what? We did get there. I'll give an example that we've gotten past. In this exact episode, in the beginning, we see her cast the crystals into a circle with her orbing. That doesn't necessarily mean she it with remote orbiting place to place. With telekinetic orbiting, you can put it in a structure. You can place them how you feel, how you want to with that intention. I think that's the main difference. If we're looking for like insight with like the telekinetic orbiting and the remote orbit, I think that would be the difference, right?
Right.
Um, so with this, with the angel guarding the hollow, as a couple people saying in the comments, and like it leads to this is why white lighters and witches don't mix because of this type of power that comes into existence. And maybe she was a case to where she was the only one, and this is the most powerful. Like this is the type of power that we need or is used in situations like that, so it doesn't need to come into the world necessarily, like on a regular basis.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's my kind of feeling towards it. And even why you can almost see, I don't know if it's the moment or the power. You can almost see the source enjoy being able to call for that crystal.
Yes.
Like there's a snarkiness there, of course, like he's like, oh, watch this, y'all watch this. But I also get like a power lust of it too.
Yeah, no, you're right. Because, and first off, I want to apologize because I have not been reading the comments, so I do apologize about that. But no, I absolutely agree because I didn't think about that. There's a couple of things that I didn't even realize until this episode, and when you just said that, we really don't see demons do stuff like that. Be able to move things to them, bring them to them, whatever the case may be. So I could absolutely see how it would be like. And then I almost wonder if for evil, what it's like to have a good power or a power that is rooted in, from like a good witch. Because, like, I don't think it would corrupt them necessarily, but does it feel good to be like, to have access to something that's really powerful, but it's been stifled a little bit? Because, I mean,
I think we see that with the warlocks, and it like again it gives them like this lust for it. It's just like, oh my God, do you feel that? It's so different.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And it's like it courses through their veins, like you said, like because they're evil powers, they're so used to doing whatever, or the powers that are more associated with evil. Because it was very interesting in Lost and Bound when Piper said, powers aren't good or evil, it's what you do with them. And I was like, oh, that's an interesting statement to have made. That's a very interesting thing. And then we turn around now and we get the source taking their powers, and he is instantly more skilled in how to use them. Like he, right off the bat, is eating Piper up, quiet as it's kept. Um, I want to get back on task because I just completely forgot what the original point was that we were talking about. And I think it was the Hollow, and then we started talking about the Guardians. Okay, yeah, so I'm back. Um,
What do we want to see more of
what do we want to see
with the
more?
Hollow or
Yes.
the Guardians? And I think we just started going in on the Guardians, and it led us to the power of the Source.
Because it's also connected. The thing is, like, talking about the Guardians and talking about, like, why wouldn't it be an entity like the Source? Well, you couldn't have someone like him because he's at the top of the food chain. So you kind of have to get so that almost makes me wonder, like, is this a demon that could have become the Source, and that's why they put him there? Like, he was so powerful that he was rising through the ranks, or maybe he lost the battle against this demon. You know what I mean? Like, there's so many different ways that they could have really expanded this knowledge base of the Hollow and the Guardians and why they were chosen. And I feel like they kind of but I feel like we also didn't have time for that. I feel like if we were gonna do something like that, that should be like a multi arc kind of thing. I'm gonna read some of the comments real quick, Diamond, and then I see you have your hand up. Um So Mark said that maybe she was a white lighter witch too, and Diamond said that would make sense why they hid her away, so they could pretend white lighters and white lighter witches don't exist, and that makes really, really good sense. They were like, baby, mm-mm, mm-mm, because we don't need all of y'all crawling around like that. Mark said I wanted more concern about the hollow being unleashed. Yes, it should have alerted the elders, honestly. Maybe a fairy passes by, panicking about, or Leo mentioning how witches and demons are high now that the word. Yes, yes, yes. It felt like it came and went. Like this ancient entity that had to be it united forces to be able to just even put it away. You would think that somebody would have been panicking a little bit more, but no, everybody was like, "Oh well, the charmed ones will get it." Which that's kind of another thing I want to discuss too is the fact that the charmed ones are just tasked with this now. Like the elders didn't get involved, nobody got involved. It was just like, okay, this demon and the charmed ones, like they got it. But Diamond has her hand up.
Yeah, so I was thinking like when you were saying that like the guardian, the devil guardian being so committed to the source and just like this evil. I think we can even reconceptualize that in a way of them showing how reinforced this dichotomy, good versus evil, game into eternity forever and ever. Because yes, the angel was willing to stand up to the source because they're evil. But I could very much just as easily envision a scenario where elder showed up and the angel was on their side and the devil was like, no, y'all can't do this. What are you doing? I don't see it as like this particular demon being so awed by the source. I just see it as that showing that reinforcement of good and evil, and demon, or I mean, sorry, this devil is so aligned with evil that no matter what evil shows up, they're going to be on that evil side. Because I could easily see that angel taking all that self-righteousness and being on the side of the elders. And we know the elders be doing shisty stuff. So the elders, like, in order to defeat the avatars, we need the hollow type of thing. And her being on their side because it's for good. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. Because God in heaven, they don't ever know how to just straddle that fence. They don't
Yeah.
know how to do that. They have no idea. They don't. I think death, like I said, is the closest they get, but everything else, no. So I could see that. I could see a situation where that happens, which again goes back to why are more magical entities not being alerted to this? Like, why are you know what? Actually, as I'm saying this, that makes me kind of think about a little bit about what we were saying earlier in the rewatch about how maybe both sides are shielded from the other. And so maybe they didn't know quite the lengths that he was going to get get the hollow out. And there was really nobody to tip them off because we know that they will tip each other off. So that just makes me think like maybe their precognitive abilities didn't give them the chance to see that he was doing something like that. And I'm taking that back to say that I wonder had the elders showed up or some elders showed up when the source got there, how different that scene would have looked. Like would he just have been able to kill them with no real issue? Or but then that would kind of undermine what the elders have been built up to at this point. Because if they could just show up and then randomly get killed, it's like, oh well then why are we always asking them for advice? But Jim Anthony has his hand up.
I have a question just for what you're saying because are you saying, well, what are you saying that they're who's shielded from what?
Well, I almost feel like evil is shielding itself from good, good is shielding itself from evil because they don't necessarily know what's going on with the other side. Like
Okay. Oh,
in my mind, that's why blah 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 could go tip off evil, but they would also have to be in communication for things. So if something big was happening, they would have to talk directly versus, oh, one of our precognitive elders had a vision that you down there brewing this up. Stop it, you know. Um,
yeah.
so kind of
I
yeah. That's a thought. That's not something that's set in stone. Just kind of something I've been.
no, I understand. I just wanted to ask for clarity before I responded to you because I feel it just I think it's fair to only challenge that because we get these insights from the elders throughout the show and in a way not necessarily like Phoebe getting premonitions and they're this all-knowing presence. I'm more so when there's evil present or something is triggered like on a large enough scale magically the elders are alerted, so it doesn't make sense to me why they weren't alerted with the killing of an angel, if
Yes.
not the release of a of the hollow.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, maybe the hollow is its own um I don't want to say omnipresent, but it's like it's its own entity and it's shielding itself from good and evil, right?
Right.
But an angel was just killed.
Yeah. Yeah.
Why are we not alerted even faster? Why are we not getting the news to the charmed ones like, yo, this is what's up? Like,
Mm-hmm.
hey, like we may not know the plan, we may not be able to see it, but we know what's going down.
Exactly. Exactly. Cause and that's another reason that I kind of hate how they act like Leo is their bridge to the elders. Because sometimes I'm like, okay, y'all can just clock in. Like we don't need a go-between. And I think that that's kind of where this episode flops because and I don't think it flops as an episode, but that element of it makes it feel like, and I don't remember who said it in the original watch, but somebody brought up the fact that like, why are the elders not here? Why are the elders not getting more directly involved? Because this is big. This isn't just some rinky dink like, oh, the Charmed Ones are fighting a big fight. This is the source. This is the hollow. I mean, this is something ginormous that is happening. And I understand the prospect of like free will, right? And we have to make sure that whatever happens, happens. We don't influence it too much because that could throw off the balance, and then it could happen in the name of good, and next thing you know, blah blah blah. Like I get that part, but what I don't kind of get is the fact that they're not more upset than they are because it's just like, oh, I'm gonna go check with the elders. Well, they didn't say nothing, so I'm gonna just let it happen. I don't know. But Jim, did you still have your hand up or was that from before?
Yeah, because just really quick, I would so if the el if the source is this source of all evil,
Hmm.
why are mortal witches fighting him? So are the charms?
Hold on, you sound kind of muffled.
Oh, hold on. Let me.
Okay, you're good
Is this
now.
is this better?
Yes.
I was saying if the source is supposed to be this source of all evil,
Mhm.
and the elders are supposed to be this source of all goodness, why aren't they clocking in, and are the charmed ones more powerful than the elders? Because why are they tasked with this and they're mortal witches?
I do feel like the sisters are more powerful than the elders. I do feel like that.
And I
Because
feel like that's why they want to control them too.
yes, yes, and I think that that is another reason why Graham's. This is the only time I'm gonna give Graham some kind of benefit. The only time is I feel like them not growing up in magic, even though she did, and then she just stopped caring. And Mia, I see your hand by the way. I'm gonna finish this thought up. Um, but I feel like them not growing up connected to magic, even though it was horrible, it underprepared them, whatever else. I also feel like it helped them not be as subservient to the elders. Because even Grams, who was doing her own thing, feared them enough to where she was like, "Girl, you got to put that baby behind Applebee's. I don't know what else to tell you. You know, you got to put up, cause we're not doing that." Where the sisters are like, "Girl, anyway, don't nobody care about that." They because they have their own minds as witches, and I really think. I really feel like that's another big issue is and why the sisters are painted sometimes as being like out of control. But Mia has her hand up.
Yeah, first of all, it to Jem's point, it makes them seem like cannon fodder. The fact that the elders are basically the same power level as the source, and yet the charmed ones are the ones that have to go fight them. It's like, okay, they can die, and that's fine, but we have to live. And it's yeah. But I also oh shoot, I can't remember my point. Oh no. Um I can't remember. I'm so sorry.
No, you're fine. I feel like I kept talking and I feel like I kept talking and I'm so sorry. If you think of it,
No,
please just unmute and be like, okay, I got it.
absolutely.
Okay. Um, Diamond said that them having control over when they can or can't have their powers is their main power over them. Exactly. Anytime they're able to give a power, quote unquote, or take them away, um, it- they do have a very strange power structure because it is weird that they would be able to vanquish a demon as powerful as the source. And then the elders are like, ain't nothing y'all can do to us. No. They could oh, Mia has her hand up.
I remember. So I was gonna say it's especially weird that they're not involved because he has Paige's orbing powers, and you brought that up in the chat during the rewatch that he could go up
Mm-hmm.
and destroy them. So
Mm-hmm.
not only is the Hallow released, but he has the ability to access them directly.
Mm-hmm.
And they're just completely, they're not even really like actively talking to Leo. He has to go talk to them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. They're not jingling for him, anything like that. And it's really crazy to me because when Ames was out here hunting white lighters, it was numero uno that we make sure we lock everything down. Nobody can orb, nobody can whatever. And now I wonder if that's because they felt like Paige's orb and power wasn't powerful enough to come up there. So they were like, oh well, it'll be all right. But to me, that's interesting. Cause now I do wonder, no, 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 no. You're oh God, are you okay? You said your asthma's acting. Are you good? Because I was gonna say, child, when you just oh, okay, okay. I was like, all right, let me know something. Cause child, I come to where you at. But but Diamond has her hand up.
I think with like the elder situation, I think the elder's not clocking in for this episode. Well, not, I'm gonna call it episode for this situation because I'm in universe, right? I think with the elders deciding to not do anything. I think part of that is that the elders are structured like in such a way, not really structured in a way. Well, first off, we don't really know the full way they're structured, but with what we do know, they're so slow to make decisions. And I think that is part of the reason why they're so like they don't like clock in as often because all of the times, like any time that we're waiting for them to make a decision about something, it's hours when potential lives are on the lines. When Leo's was when later on or further on when Leo's getting into all of his issues and all of his problems and he's always getting disciplined by the elders. Even with the wedding, right? Like it was days, weeks before the elders would, give them a decision on something. So I think that's partially why, because like we talked about, like the pacing of this episode is very, very quick. It's happening. And the sisters, nobody knew like they knew that the Hollow had stolen the girls' the sisters' powers, right? They knew that. But even the sisters did not know that the source was extracting their powers out of the Hollow because when they went to do the spell that summoned the source, they were saying we'll pull our powers out of the Hollow. And they were expecting that they were going to pull their powers out of the Hollow and they were going to get their powers and then the source would find out that they have their powers back and then he would attack. They did not realize that their powers were in him and that they were summoning him when they summoned their powers. And so the elders might not have realized that he had, like they knew he had that orbing power, but they didn't think that he had it, in him. So they didn't realize that maybe how serious the situation was. Because like we said, we saw Leo come down there with information that the sisters already had. So it's like the elders are not up to date on what's happening, and that's probably because there isn't any communication happening between the sides right now, because each side is trying to figure out what to do independently.
And see
So I
that.
kind of feel like not to say that the elders shouldn't have been doing things because they should have sent more white lighters to help, especially like you should have been watching them. And once you saw that Leo had been arrowed, you should have sent another white lighter to heal him and help
Mhm.
out. So like I don't excuse them not being clocked in, but I do understand why they maybe weren't as like they hadn't made any moves about the hollow because they clearly take generations to make decisions. And I definitely think that angel chick could have been a witch white lighter because we know the elders are liars. And so them hiding away a witch white lighter so they can keep pretending that these unions don't exist. And they, 'cause I can't believe that Sam and Patty were the first ones. You know what I'm saying? I just can't possibly believe that they were the first ones to have a baby. Like, come on. Like, especially like the elders and witches have been around since well before birth control. You know what I'm saying? So there's just
Mhm.
no way. So I just feel like they were hiding them away for forever until they needed one, which was Paige. Right? They needed Paige because they needed Paige to reconstitute the charm ones to defeat the source, which gets me to my other point. Ooh, my brain is, I'm firing on all cylinders right now, which gets me to my other point. I think part of the reason why the elders can't go against the source is that the charmed one's destiny is to defeat the source. So even though the elders should be clocking in and they should be doing more to help the sisters right now, they ultimately know because of destiny they can't defeat it. Because remember back to our the baddest bitch of them all, Tuatha, as
Mhm.
powerful as the charmed ones were, and as destined as they were to defeat evil on a grand scheme, they were not destined to defeat Tawatha, and so they couldn't. So Kyle had to clock in.
Right.
17-year-old, 27-year-old, 17-year-old Kyle, he had to clock in. And so I think that's part of the reasons why the elders can't really directly combat the source because, like, even though they do have to some degree the same power level or should be, right? Because they're positioned as opposites. So they should be the balancing of each other, they ultimately can't do that because it is the charm one's destiny to do it. So that's to your point, Jim. That kind of plays into why it has to be these mortal witches to do it because it's their destiny and they've been built to do this. You know, all four of our beautiful girls there. But yeah, so those are all my points.
I think those are good points. And I think it really highlights too. I don't even know what I'm trying to say here because there's something I think it highlights too how disconnected the elders are from the situation because I feel like as soon as they heard Hollow, it should have been like, hey, we sending somebody down there. We sending a representative. We sending somebody. We finna do something. Like that would have been the time, and I honestly think that that would have upped the stakes even more for this episode if they had put us in a if they had put us in a situation where like an elder has to come down because this is some ancient magic and that's the thing that makes me feel like sometimes that the elders because I get what you're saying. I fully agree that they may not have known what was going on. At this point is where I feel like okay, excuse me, if they tried to pull out one of their precognitive elders and that elder couldn't get a hold of anything and was like, "Oh, I can't see what they're doing." And it's like, "Oh, okay, so now we got the hollow down there because they at least knew it was down there." So if you're telling me that the hollow is loose somewhere and now we can't actually see what evil is doing, we need to be a little bit more involved than what we are because this is something that could really turn bad very quickly because I kind of understand why, not kind of, but I do understand why Phoebe had the power to help banish the hollow. She's a charmed one. She's not just your regular average witch. So it makes sense. But at the same time, I, as an elder, would not have wanted to take that chance. And if I know that I am an entity that is the embodiment of good, or at least part of the embodiment of good, then I'm gonna have my tail down there just in case. So when we get ready to put this thing back in, we know we got enough magic. Even if we can find an evil entity from somewhere, child. And Jim, I see your hand is up. I'm gonna read Mia's comment real quick and then you can go ahead. So Mia said that even another white lighter like they did with Natalie, who seemed more with it than Leo was, that they have team leads. They had team leads. They probably had like white lighter managers, the ones who got promoted. Nat was definitely one, or she was working her way towards being one. I genuinely feel like that. But you're right. Like, have someone at least on that is a representative of the elders be there. It just don't let. And this goes back to our discussion before that we've had before about kind of like they should have more than just one white lighter, because now that Leo is down for the count, unfortunately he didn't die. You need to have it to where your link to the elders is not completely gone. And I'll kind of go back and elaborate a little bit more on that, but Jim has his hand up.
Well, just to respond to the elders of it all,
Hmm.
I like in the book they say the elders are the highest form of a white light.
Hmm.
So it's like who because we're introduced to destiny at a later point in this, but I'll stick with the knowledge that's at hand.
Right.
But who ever this is a serious question, I'm not being a smart ass when I say this, but whoever said that it was the Charmed One's destiny to vanquish the source?
Well, that was kind of the point of Which Way Now, was that they had fulfilled their destiny by vanquishing the source.
But with where we are now, who said that that was their destiny? That's a serious question. Like I said, I'm not trying to be a smartass. I'm really not. I just want to be before I continue my point. I just want to have the information.
It's never like, I mean, it's never like prophesized or said anywhere, but like everybody says it.
So that
Like
must make it true.
everybody, like they say it like, it's our destiny to, like, I mean, like right now they're not saying it, but like they hint at it, and then it is explicitly said that it was there, that the elders have mentioned it, Leo has mentioned it, and then they explicitly say it later on in the episode, Which Way Now. So regardless of like whether we know it or not, like, or whether they know it or not, like it has been like stated by, like, it is destiny. Like we know destiny has said that that's the case.
Well, that's why I said I want to stick to the information that we have with the show now because it really just makes me wonder if someone that is just an elevated white lighter is saying that this is destiny of theirs. Because, like I said, I was asking a question so I could have information, not necessarily just disagree. There's a there's an idea I wonder about if there's just an if this is just a prophecy or a word, if you will, from an elevated white lighter. Why? And this is a popular belief. Why is it not fair to say that this is a projected destiny, even with seeing them go back into the past with Melinda Warren? So are they self-creating? Are they self-prophesizing? Are they who it just makes me wonder who's really pulling the strings here. And not necessarily in charge, but who's pulling the string.
I feel like I kind of don't understand what you're getting at.
So
I I feel like I kind of do.
in the beginning of my point, I'll just make it plain and simple. There's why is it who's with asking whose destiny is it? Or who said that this was their destiny? Why is it their duty or is it their fulfillment that this is the end all be all for them and they don't have a free will to their power? Does that make sense? You can say no if it doesn't, and I
I'm gonna
can
be honest,
try
I
and
think I
re.
got further away from the point. I think
So are you okay?
are
So
you saying that they decided that it was their destiny to defeat the source, and so that then made it their destiny to defeat the source?
That's what I'm questioning. Exactly.
Oh,
That's
okay. So
exactly what
like,
I'm
so they
questioning.
created the, I like, sort of, okay, so I see what you're saying. Like you're saying, like, did Melinda just have the prophecy of the charm ones, or did Melinda create the charm ones by saying what she said on her pyre?
Right.
Okay, no, I see where your head's at. I see where your head's
Because
at. Yeah, no, I
we're
see what you're saying.
questioning where Source's origins are from as well, right? Like, I'm just saying, like, I'm just we have this conversation, not necessarily what's
You're kind of
on.
muffled in a way. It sounds like you're
Yeah,
away from
you're
it.
like fading in and
Oh,
out.
oh,
Yeah.
I don't know what's up with my mic today. Is that better?
Yeah, yeah.
I was saying like because I'm just pulling in all the information because we're also questioning like the information from this conversation because we're questioning origins of the source. So I'm just pulling in the information that we're shown on the show by so far, and not necessarily what we have like as a viewer with all 8 seasons. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah, up to this point, up to this point, there is no actual evidence that their destiny is to defeat the source. The only evidence that we get that the Charm One's at least original first destiny, right? Because clearly you get more destinies as you complete. It's like just infinite missions, infinite soul missions, I guess. So yeah, up until we get Which Way Now, we don't have any concrete confirmation in any magical way that their destiny is and always has been to defeat the source. That occurring saying, hey, you completed your destiny by defeating the source, and quite frankly, weren't sure if you're going to do it. So now that you've done it, another destiny will reveal itself. That is the concrete evidence that we get that says that they were supposed to. So you could make the argument that it was a self-fulfilling prophecy that they created that, but I don't know if destiny, I mean, right, because you're like talking about free will and guiding your own self and making your choices, and every choice is a reaction, and your destiny changes with each choice that you make because the future changes with each choice that you make.
Even
So,
with the elders, they even
yeah,
they say they're not all knowing. They're not like omniscient beings. You know what I'm
yeah.
saying? So it's like
So
even the
yeah, I
choices they're
definitely, it could
choosing
be, it
changes
could be.
destiny. Does that make more sense, Galen? Would diamonds like help in them in my perspective?
Yeah.
What I don't need a yes. I don't need a yes. Like I'm just trying to
Well, no, I
bring
get
it
what you're
back home.
I get what you're saying. I think I have a fixed view of it, but it also makes me think about like how we've been talking about how Melinda low key may have created the charmed ones because she knew that they existed, and so did the chicken or the egg come first?
Hmm.
So
Yeah,
I kind of see what you're saying in that, like, because if she hadn't, let's just say hypothetically that she did create the prophecy of the charmed ones, right? So let's just say she did.
Hmm.
Then in that instant, if she hadn't, then who was gonna fight the source? You know, who,
The
I mean,
elders would have had to finally clock in.
the elders would have had to do something. So from that perspective, like I get what you're saying now.
but see, this is why we need information on when the source came into existence. Because I don't think the source is in the book.
I don't think so. Not their point.
I flipped through my copy and I didn't see it. I didn't see
He's
an
in
entry of
mine.
the
I mean,
source.
he's in mine, but
Oh, really?
yeah, he's in mine.
Let me
Let
flip
me.
through again.
Now I
What
gotta.
page?
Have there been like different sources over time too, or was it
Yes,
always the one? Okay.
there have been different ones. And I mean, they say that the source has kind of existed for like at least millennia
But
because
Yeah.
what does oh yeah, you're right. They do have that line in there. But what about the okay, so the Salem trials weren't thousands of years ago. They were a few hundred years ago. If that. You know what I'm saying? If there was a time where the charmed ones weren't prophesized, so there's still there a battle of good and evil, right? There's still this source that's out there, and this is going back to my question. I guess I'm kind of answering my own question of why the elders would then say this is their destiny, but maybe that's why, maybe because Melinda brought them into existence.
well,
Hmm.
I mean, maybe I kind of always think of it from the perspective that magic will balance itself out in some way. And so the charmed ones, let's just say hypothetically that Melinda didn't actually have a hand in creating them. She really did only see them. Um, then I feel like that would be sort of like Magic's way of saying we have been out of alignment for too long. Demons are starting to, kind of run Earth as and move among humans and whatever else. And so now it's time for the charmed ones to at least come to fruition. Because
Yeah.
this source is starting to, because he kind of seemed like he was already unhinged, low key quiet as it's kept. And so he's kind of giving me a little bit of like Voldemort and Harry Potter tease, where if he would have just left them alone, he wouldn't have gotten vanquished. But because he started,
He was power corrupt.
but because exactly because he wanted to maintain his grip, he started going for them, and then it was like, all right, well now they gotta vanquish you, so. It kind of puts me now talking about it like that from that perspective. It kind of puts me in that mindset. Um, but I do get what you're saying now. Like now, I do get what you're saying. Because the reason, I'm gonna tell you the reason I was a little confused at first is because to me, us not knowing that that was their destiny wouldn't have stopped it from being their destiny. It just meant they didn't they knew that it was something they were gonna have to do eventually, but they didn't necessarily know it was their destiny, if that makes sense. So that was where my mind was, but once you explained, I'm like, okay, okay, okay.
No, I agree with that. I don't take away from them knowing that this was something they were going to absolutely have to do. Like,
Yeah.
being that they were, the big witches in town for sure. And
Hmm.
clearly, the elders, I mean, the source only knew where San Francisco was on Earth. So,
Baby,
of
listen,
course,
baby. I wonder if maybe I'm gonna shut up because I feel like this doesn't make any sense, and so I'm gonna leave it alone after I say it because it doesn't make any sense. Okay. But I almost wonder if that maybe because there have to be other
next
whatever.
side.
Um, whatever. There have to be other ones. So I almost wonder if that one was only active like that because good had been on it so long, and maybe that's what kind of
Mm.
threw the balance off. And that's why the charmed ones ended up coming to fruition.
And there
Because
was like a flood of evil in that space.
what if, oh, what if the Warren witches being on the Nexus for so long and maybe subconsciously or intentionally tapping into its power? What if that's what created the actual charmed ones? Like Melinda just thought she was cute because she had her three powers, but then when her three powers manifested at the same time down the road, it just so happened to coincide with the same generation that was the culmination of this built up magic and built up everything from them drawing from the power of the Nexus. Then when they went back in time and she knew that they were coming, she was just like, yeah, my descendants coming and they're gonna be the charmed ones or whatever. And then she had a premonition about like so it's all just one big cycle. So maybe her speaking the charmed ones didn't create them, but she just let the world know that they were coming because she saw them. But magic is maybe magic is not supposed to be on a nexus point like that for prolonged periods of time because they're like, oh, we're protecting it. But what if that unintentionally created the charmed ones? Because that's a lot of power to have in one place, just randomly like that. I'm just saying. I'm just throwing that out there. I don't know what y'all think about that. I know that that's kind of
That's not a bad idea.
out there.
That's
That's
not a bad idea at all.
mm, yeah. Well, thank you. I think it's kind of one of those. It's like, oh, okay, okay, all right. Oh, I was looking for the source, and now this book that I have, they do kind of like add stuff from the show. So this might just be something that you know is they put in there after the fact because Billy
Hmm.
is also in here. So take from that.
Oh, you know that's a lie.
This looks like they made right. This looks like somebody might have just written it based off of the show though, because it says the source of all evil. No, the source of all evil can be sensed by demons. They have the source twice. That's why this is something they put in there. He can be hurt by energy balls. Gargoyles can protect buildings from him. His demonic powers include shape shifting, glamoring, whatever that says, energy balls, zapping, flaming in and out. Yeah, so this is something that whoever created this, they did it. Okay, never mind. So he might not be in their actual book. Who knows?
Yeah, I'm taking another flip through a little slower, but I'm just making sure because this is pretty accurate to what's in there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, in the show, from what I'm, just exploring over the years and comparing to the show.
Mm-hmm.
But that's a terrible was probably ripped out by Grams, but that's a terrible way to not prep some witches that are quote unquote destined to defeat him.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I do want to bring up what Mia said. Mia says all that necromancy Grims was doing, and I mean that's not wrong. Cause that
Mhm.
lady was talking to Patty every day, and I feel like that's some deep magic to be doing every single day. Well, we don't know how often she was talking to the lady, but still. But you know what I mean? That's still a lot. Like summoning the dead on a regular basis like that.
And
That's
there are several spells to do it.
mm-hmm.
There's like two
Mm-hmm.
or three spells to do it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Now getting back to I know we've kind of gotten a little bit away from everything, but just kind of getting back to the source for a minute and talking about this episode, how did y'all feel about sort of his descent? Because it it's part of it is fueled by the hollow because even the seer says it like the magic is starting to corrupt you. You need to stop. You know, you ain't supposed to be taking it out of, which goes back to what Diamond was saying, that maybe the elders didn't even think that it was possible to take the magic out of the hollow because that is pretty, it's a pretty big thing to be able to do. So as we watch him go, he gets more and more desperate to vanquish the charmed ones. So do y'all think that if he hadn't taken in the hollow, he would have been a little bit more about himself? Because we kind of saw him crashing out a little bit before that. So what are your thoughts on the course of events had the source not been extracting the powers from the hollow? And maybe his sanity would have remained a little bit more intact.
I don't know because he did seem like he was kind of losing it before he took the hollow. So I
Yeah.
don't know. I still think he might have been hell bent on getting them regardless. I think he just thought that the hollow would help him, be more successful in that, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. I can agree. I can absolutely agree because, usually when demons take their powers, it's like, yes, I got their powers, but he wasn't even about wanting to kill them with their own powers anymore. At this point, it was just about adding to his own power so he could take them out. So he was already definitely going down that slope. Jermaine Anthony has his hand up.
I think he had a little bit of sanity still with him. Well, quote unquote sanity. I think he still had his wits about him, only because there was he could have taken the hollow into himself, but he was using it as a tool. So
Mm.
that's the only reason why I think like he still like was on his plan, even though it was like unhinged, but like that was still his plan, whether his seer whether she agreed with the plan or not. You know, it was like, listen, this is what I got going on. You don't need to know every detail. Which is
Mm,
why he used dark lighters and other demons to do what he had to do because he knew he would probably go 180 fully. He was already at 170.
right, right, baby, because he was already ready.
He flipped that switch was almost flipped completely.
It was. My boy was getting more and more desperate. And I really feel like part of it is he he thought the charmed ones were no longer a threat. And then now you telling me not only are they a threat again, but you telling me that they gonna vanquish me. That's a lot. And my boy said, not on today. He said I already took one of them out. And if you think that I'm not gonna do it again, then you out your mind. Just kind of segueing a little bit because we I think we have really had a good discussion about the source, and I know there's a lot more that we could talk about, but let's kind of get into some of the sister storylines this week. So in the midst, speaking of the source, taking one of them out, Piper is very paranoid about one of them dying or all of them dying, and then what's gonna happen to the house. And so she's trying to leave it to Lily, and of course she curses them and says, short of a dark lighter you win, most likely to survive. So boom, right there. So I want to know, did y'all notice that they kind of tried to like gaslight her a little bit and make it seem like she was just overreacting and doing too much, or did I make that up? And if you didn't gather that, Jim Anthony has his hand up, and then Mia.
You didn't make that up at all because this is what they do to each other. You
It
know,
is.
Leo is an honorary sister at this point because the Hallowells, they hate each other even though they love each other unconditionally. They do not like each other. They
Mm-hmm.
they will look at each other in the face with hardcore evidence. One of them will have hardcore evidence, and the other will say, "No, you just made that up. You don't know what you're talking about." Because that even happened in this episode. Like, yeah, that's not going to work. But as soon as somebody else is convicted, it's like, yeah, we're going to act on this. Like,
Mm-hmm.
now,
Mm,
now, wait a minute.
exactly. Like, girl, don't be a bird your whole life. Please, for the love of God. Please.
Told me that, but this is what you're acting on. Okay.
Child, when I tell you them folks, my God, today. Mia had her hand up and she said that, her mind's bad today. Girl, trust me, I get it. I fully get it. I probably shouldn't have eaten and then gotten on here because now I'm sleeping. But but no, I want to say it was Crystal and then Diamond, but I can't remember.
I'll wait till we get to Phoebe because that's what I was.
Okay, okay. Diamond has her hand up.
I think I think related to Piper, I think to a certain extent, um, she was being ridiculous because what does it matter? Leo is a white lighter. Do you really think he's gonna continue living as part human after his wife and his two sister-in-laws perish in a battle with the source of all evil? You don't, if you don't, like, you're better off leaving it to your dad. Like, I do to a certain extent think in that moment she was being ridiculous because they were choosing to leave it to Leo, because Leo's not going to keep running P3. Leo maybe might keep living in the house because he's lazy, but not really. So it's like it is kind of a little ridiculous because it's like if the three of y'all die, what does really Leo's, I mean, I guess maybe she's thinking Leo's going to be so devastated he'll clip his wings and then he'll need a house and a business to run. But if he's that devastated, he's not going to be looking to run no business. I just feel like she was being ridiculous. I get where she was coming from, but it's like, be so for real right now, Piper.
So here was kind of how I perceived that scene. Is although of course, I wouldn't leave anything to Leo. That part I absolutely 100% agree on. Like, Leo can go to hell. I think she's in a weird predicament here because they're not really that close to victory yet. Like, we're not at let me leave the house to Victor level yet, just yet. Of course they're gonna get there, but right now it's kind of like, it's a little shaky. But on a kind of the bigger, grander scheme, in the grander schemes of things, I think when I say like they were treating Piper like she was being ridiculous, they were acting like she just shouldn't be talking about wills at all. Like, it's weird that you would even bring it up. Like, why are you talking about wills? Why are you talking about leaving the house to somebody? Like, why is this even a topic of discussion? They were acting like it was just some strange thing that she was just randomly doing. Like, that's quirky Piper, when you literally had a sister to die. She lost her life, and you had to sell her car and put her mattress up there in the attic so that Paige could get thrown into it, and whatever the case may be. So it's like that was the thing. That was kind of what got me about it, was more so them acting like she was just doing something that didn't make sense as a whole. Like, leaving it to Leo, absolutely 100%. But it's kind of like their options are limited, because Cole is probably gonna die when Phoebe dies, because he ain't gonna let her go down without a fight. And then, like I said, they're not really there yet with Victor, so Leo kind of is the last option, which is, you know what, from that perspective, oh yes, making it to where he is the last option, he's nothing, because he doesn't compare. Uh, I mean, let me stop. But no, that was kind of my thing with it. Jim Anthony has his hand up.
I think we're all, I hope we will all agree, because I think we've all said the same thing like throughout this specific season, that we got to remember Piper is emulating Prue. And
Yes.
she gives us that line in this specific episode saying, Prue did it, and we got better thank God she did, because we'll still be dealing with lions.
Liar.
So I think not only is she making sense from a human immortal perspective, but she's big sister Prue did this, so this is the way I need to do it, because this is what's right for us. Like you said, the options are limited. We don't have a relationship with anybody biologically. We get in thrown under the bus or attacked by our play aunties and all of that.
Mhm.
So we have nobody to trust outside of this angel that is immortal, outside short of a dark light.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, what is it? Lesser of two evils.
Yeah.
It's like,
Literally.
and my main point is that Piper wants her family legacy to still stand, and outside of her bloodline, it's the hope.
Yeah. Yes.
That's her. If there's no other legacy to stand, like biologically, it's gonna be the Halliwell man.
Well, and you make a good point, because she said, I need to have these kind of things in order, especially if I'm going to have kids. So when she was leaving the house to Leo, that may have been her way of being like, you're over it until they get older. And right now, since we
Right,
don't have
right. Like,
any,
this is precautionary. I'm not saying we about to die. This is
exactly.
just what we need to
Like,
do just in case.
just in case we X, Y, and Z, and then I have a baby, or we have a baby, then the baby will be taken care of. So it kind of reminds me of like when they were getting ready to go up against Zanko. I know this is me jumping forward, but it's kind of the same situation. Then they left everything to Victor. They left him the deeds to the club. They left him the deed to the house. They left like everything. This was the kids' schedules and their school stuff and birth certificates. They gave that to Victor then when they had a better relationship. But I feel like also at that point, she had children, and she knew there was going to be someone tangible there that was going to have to be taken care of, versus like me trying to put a precaution in place for this little imaginary being that doesn't exist yet. And what I what the main difference in that's so funny to me is, at no point did she say Leo is here and da 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 da, and he'll be safe, and then he can come back, and then you can give it to him. They were just like, girl, here's all the records, here's all everything. She turned everything over to him, and so at
It was
that
too
point,
much of a loose cannon.
exactly, and mind you, Leo was human at that point, and Piper, it never even occurred. It was never even a discussion where it was like, yeah, Leo will be safe. No.
He could disappear at any minute. That's not safe.
She said even if Leo is safe, but I think that shows that shift in mindset and that shift in priority that leads a little bit more into we have family now, where before they're leaving it to Leo because like literally, and plus I feel like if Piper was the one drawing it up, of course she's gonna give it to Leo. That's her person. If Phoebe was the one that was doing it, she would have left it to Cole, and then Piper probably would have been like, "No, ma'am, you're not gonna leave 1329 Prescott Street to this former demon." So it's that's kind of how I perceive that, and was just kind of curious to see um a little bit of how we saw that moment because Piper really clocked in this episode, especially once that man got hurt. When that man got hurt, Piper said, we ain't got time for guests, we ain't got time for visitors, we ain't got time for X, Y, and Z, blah, 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 blah. She said, we need to make sure that we take the source out because not today. I don't have my powers anymore. Girl, what is we gonna do? Jimmy Anthony has his hand up.
What you're making me think of is your point from the last panel, or it might have been even from the Firestarter episode. You said Piper loves magic, and it shows even this when Piper wants something done. Oh, she's going to the special. She's like, listen, you and Phoebe can switch powers immediately.
Uh-huh.
She's like, listen, we're about to try everything in the book. So Piper loves magic, and I think it just shows here that she does, and she will use it for however she needs to. And it's just that what's taken away from her with magic is where her relationship becomes rocky with it, in my opinion.
I absolutely agree. Once she, well, Mia has her hand up. Go ahead, and then I'll finish it.
I was just gonna say to Jem's point, I think Piper is afraid of her magic. You see how powerful it is when the Source uses it and how easily he controls it. And to me, the thing that's holding Piper back from being able to use her power quite that freely is because she's terrified of it.
Mm.
And I feel like
It,
that echoes throughout the series. You see her, like when Wyatt is sick and she's so quick to go to magic, she does really rely on magic and trust magic, but she's also really afraid of it and like the power it can have, the ramifications, the personal gain, and all of that. I feel like she constantly is sort of in fear of abusing magic or magic backfiring on her.
Mm-hmm.
that makes so much sense to Piper. You're
It
absolutely right.
does. It does.
Hmm.
Especially like even when she just has her freezing power as her active power. And we're gonna talk at some point before we get off of here too about active powers. So please remind me to bring that back up. How the Hollow was able to just only steal active powers, but we'll get to that. Um, Even when she only has freezing as her active power, she's just afraid to kind of do anything in general. Like she clocks out with spells, potions, anything. She's like, I don't know. And I think that may be another reason that she excels at potions versus like spell writing or something like that because it's something external. It's like a spell can go awry, but a potion, I feel like she's like, I can
It's
control.
something she can control. Mm.
Mhm. She can control the ingredients that go in. She can control the reactions that they have. She can control what it does. She can control the severity of it. Because the very first thing that she says is, I'll replicate my exploding power. And it's like, girl, what are you talking about? How can you even do that? And then when she was like, purple good, purple means explosion. And I was like, wait, what? Huh? What are you talking? But then it makes sense. Piper is looking for something that's like, okay, I can make this just as powerful as me, but we can throw it. Other people can do it. It's not solely on me to use this. So that makes perfect sense. Ooh, let's give Mia some claps. That was a good one. That was a very, very good perspective. Ooh. Jimmy Anthony has his hand up.
This discussion is amazing because that then makes me go back to her control thing, right? It's like okay, I can make this power as strong as mine and I can use it externally. Like I think Diamond was saying that. Or somebody said it was because it was external.
Hmm.
And it was some, or maybe even you. I apologize
I think it
if
was
it
me,
was.
darling. I think it was. It's okay.
But that shows more of her personality in this as well because having that power set she can then use when she wants to and is in control and she's like, listen, like this is something I can use and it's not I don't want to just say out of control, but it's not there won't be an unexpected result,
Hmm.
and I don't think she has the I think she has the love for the power, but I think like the power, like what Mia was saying, power versus what word did she use? Like the power versus magic. Like she
Yeah.
loves magic, but maybe not necessarily the level of power she has. But then this brings up to our arguments like she does know her level of power and she enjoys using it, but only again when she can control it.
I think it's too. She likes being able to defend herself. I think that's the other part of that. Is she likes being powerful because she knows powerful. I feel like I said that whole word because she knows if something attacks, I can attack it back and we'll be good. Versus like if a demon attacks, I don't know what I'm gonna do. I think
Like
that's
Phoebe,
another like yeah. I mean no, absolutely. I mean I love my Phoebe Down, but
she
Piper
froze up.
Piper would not be good with premonition. Because first off, she would ignore him. And second off, if a demon attacked and Piper couldn't, because I mean, Piper has the power to freeze, and the first thing she does or did at certain points is call for somebody else. She would say, "Phoebe, Prue, somebody's like some." She needed someone to come help her, and I think once she got to a place where she didn't need that help anymore, and Diamond, I see your hand. Once she got to that place where she didn't need that help anymore, it was kind of like, oh, okay, all right, yeah, I'm cool. I'm cooling now. I still don't want to do it, but as long as I ain't gotta worry about having somebody else here, I'm Gucci. I'm Gucci. Mia said if I were Paige or Phoebe, I'd want to keep one of those exploding potions on me at all times. Oh, especially Phoebe. Maybe I would stay with one of the potions. But Diamond has her hand up.
Um, I think I forgot what I was gonna say. I'm so sorry.
Uh-oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, I completely forgot. I thought I mean, and it was like it wasn't directly related to what y'all were talking about. It was something that someone said that had me thinking something else, but now I'm like I lost the thread. Um, it was something related to Cole and Piper. Yeah, I can't. If I think of it, I'll put it in the chat.
Okay. Okay. But that's a good transition actually into talking about Phoebe and Cole. Oh, dear God in heaven. Phoebe is a bird. Love my baby down. But Phoebe is I think Phoebe loves Cole because he doesn't and Jim I saw it was Jim's hand and then Crystal. Jim, Crystal, Diamond. Oh my gosh, we got all of the stones. Um, but I'm gonna just say this. I'm not sure how to feel about Phoebe and Cole this episode, except to say that they don't need to be together because Cole enables Phoebe in not communicating while also trying to make her communicate as it pertains to him. And I would love to give more to expound on that a little bit more. But Jim had his hand up and then Crystal.
Um, For Phoebe, Cole is a complete distraction, and vice versa. They are unfortunate distractions for each other. In my opinion, it's very unfortunate that they are, in fact, distractions for each other. whether it be emotionally, whether it be intuitively. Like they literally block each other from being their best self, but because they make each other second guess themselves until they're like in the heat of battle.
Hmm.
Like what did Cole say? Like, and go and do what you do best, and that's be a witch and save the damn day, or whatever he said.
Hmm. Correct.
And it's 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 disheartening for me because this is like what Charm wants to tell us a storyline on Cole or Phoebe and Cole. I don't even want to put Cole first, but with Phoebe and Cole.
Hmm.
And this episode really shows for me is like y'all are a distraction for one another, because even with wanting to save each other by lying to each other and then shifting the whole magical system, quote unquote,
Hmm.
um, for the safety of him, and that's not okay. That's not okay in the charmed household. That's not okay amongst your sisters. That's not like as family, and that's not okay amongst your coven. You
Hmm.
cannot ask your family coven and the charmed ones to manipulate a situation that was shown to you with your charmed power
Right.
to save your man.
Right.
That's
Right.
not okay. That's not okay.
That's true. Especially Piper was trying to fight back this episode. Like
She
usually
tried.
she was trying because usually Piper coddle and Prue too. I mean she did it too, but they usually coddle Phoebe and just kind of like go along with like Phoebe, we can't do that. And one time, and then Phoebe says no, and they say okay. But this time we really see Piper trying to tell the girl we do not have time for this. Like we need him to tell us who the demon is. And
Right.
the whole time Phoebe is just like, no, no, we can't do that. No. And it's just like you said, they're distractions for each other. And she doesn't know how to get out of her head when it comes to him. And he doesn't know how to, no, no. She doesn't know how to get out of her heart when it comes to him. He doesn't know how to get out of his head when it comes to her. And it just, but Crystal had her hand up.
You guys really just touched on almost everything I wanted to say, but that kind of makes me like question like what I was having also. Like with Phoebe, if Phoebe told Cole about the premonition, do you think it would have made much of a difference? Like besides identifying the demon, you know?
I really feel like if she had told him about the premonition, he just would have been like, yeah, that makes sense. And moved on. Like I- Phoebe, but you know what? That makes sense that Phoebe reacted like that because we've talked before about how Phoebe always looks for the worst thing to happen.
Hmm.
So in her mind, if I tell him that this premonition happened and what happened to him in it, that he's gonna make it happen. When it's like Phoebe, you had a premonition about it, so it's gonna, like you said, sometimes it's just to prepare you for what's gonna come. It's not
Exactly.
for you to fight it and say no, da 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 da. Sometimes you're just supposed to have the vision of it because now what? I mean, it's just like you having a premonition about the lamp going under the couch. It's like, okay, well, you knew where it was at because you had the vision of it. So, look, yeah, no, I don't
Like
think
Mia said, I agree with that too. Like
agreed.
that might be a reason why. uh,
And I honestly feel like Cole becoming the source is somehow magically connected to Phoebe trying to avert her premonitions. We see later magic doesn't like that. Hmm. I would love to, if you feel like, if you're able to share more about that, I would love to hear more about that. I'm very curious. Oh, wait. So are you saying like if she had just left things where they were at, he wouldn't have become the source?
Yeah, like, and I mean, maybe he would have ended up dying anyways,
Yeah.
but I
Oh.
don't quite have all the pieces together, but I just feel like that is a ramification. of those efforts because we kind of see both the Source and Phoebe trying to change their fate, essentially.
Oh my
And
God.
it kind of goes wrong for both of them.
What if the seer somehow now this is me reaching, okay? But what if like the seer maybe not maybe what if the seer like intercepted that premonition? What if at the same time that she was trying to get a vision about what was going to happen, Phoebe had that vision, had her premonition, and it clashed some kind of way, and she caught it? Because that doesn't make any sense. I literally just made that up. I'm making this up, trying to make my little theory make sense. That's crazy. I sound insane, but I see what you're saying now. Like Phoebe Loki made it happen. Like, hmm. Or what if in the middle of the seer having a vision? Okay. All right, let's okay. Let me sit with this for a second. Okay. So what if as the seer was having a vision of what was gonna happen and she was still seeing nothing? Because when she was like, I've seen us do great things together. What if her initial vision was literally of her just being like, girl, it ain't nothing there. Everything is dead. And then Phoebe got her vision, and maybe like the seer didn't know about that vision, but as Phoebe started doing things to make that, and I think this is what Mia is saying, but I'm just making it make sense in my head. I'm processing it out loud. Like as Phoebe was trying to change it, and what if the seer started to see a new future that was being shaped where Cole was a part of it because he wasn't actually supposed to be a part of the initial future. And so when she realized, like, oh, I can use this to my advantage, that's how the seer slipped in. Because her precognitive abilities are like low-key leagues above Phoebe's. So I feel like she would be sensitive to kind of shifts and changes like that. And so as Phoebe fought harder, and then low-key what happened with Miles is a reflection of this. Oh. Baby, Phoebe is Raven Baxter, and nobody can convince me otherwise. Phoebe is Raven Baxter, and nobody can convince me other. Jim Anthony has his hand up. I'm so sorry. I did not mean to take up that much time. Go ahead. Go ahead. I'm so sorry.
Um, well, if anybody wants to respond to your theory, I'd rather them go first before, because I was going to go back to the other point.
Mm, don't look like I'm gonna read the comments. I will read the comments though. Um, Mia said almost every single issue that I mean Diamond said almost every single issue that Cole and Phoebe got into in their relationship is because the other ones thought were oh my God, why can I not read today? What's going on? Am I having a
No,
stroke?
it's all messed up. Let me just say what I was trying to say because like
Okay.
I typed it and I was trying to edit it. Anyways, what I was trying to say is basically like every single issue they get into, or so many of the issues they get into, is because either Cole or Phoebe think that they're doing what's best for the other one, but they never think to consult the other one and say, "Hey, what are your thoughts? How do you feel about this?
Mhm,
What do you want to do?" So they're
mhm,
always subverting each other's choices. And that's why they keep running into these issues because they're like, I just was trying to protect you. I was just trying to protect you because I love you. And it's like Cole, it's like Phoebe, if Cole wants to sacrifice his life for you, even though you've asked him not to,
mhm,
there's nothing you can do to stop him from doing that. So you're wasting time and you're putting yourself in more danger by doing that. And so
mhm.
that's kind of what my comment that is illegible said.
No, it's sometimes I was like, God, I don't think I'm that sleepy. No. It's not that it's not that bad. I just for some reason when I see one word, it's like it trips me up and I can't get the child. I think I be having cognitive issues, so don't worry about it. But go ahead, Jim Anthony. That's a good point too, Diamond. I want to say that. That's a very, very good point.
Um, Actually, like with all this being said, it's all about the source. So I don't think it's too far off. But like back to like Crystal asking a question about like would there have been a difference? I really think there would have been like if she said something. I think there would have been because what we experience is Phoebe's lack of trust in her abilities, which to everyone's point or to your point, Galen, that this is what leads her down the road with Mark and the elders, her losing her abilities. Like this is very well could have been, the seventh thing on the list of the elders were keeping on these girls. But more so is like about the distrust of that she has, like not only in her powers but in her heart, because you always used to say you're getting these visions for a reason. You're getting these visions for a reason. You tell everybody else you get these visions for a reason, but yet the first reaction you have is say, "Oh yeah, no, we not about
Yep.
to do that." Yeah, like
Yep.
we're like when these girls minus Paige because we don't see well we see love doesn't necessarily have to be romantic. So when we see these girls clocking with their love, all sense and sensibility goes out the window,
Hmm.
and they want to act on what they feel they can control, aka ego. They want to act on what they think they're supposed to control, as opposed to trusting what they're receiving magically as they do. That's what they do when they're at their best. It's because they're trusting their magic, their gut, their intuition into the Leo's credit. Like this is what he tells these girls all the time. It's like when you guys act from instinct,
Hmm.
that's when you're at your best. When you act like and you have your intention set and then you're acting from instinct, boom, boom, boom. So I think there would have been a difference, Crystal, that if Phoebe told Cole, "Hey, I just saw this. This is what you did." Yes, Galen, he very much would say, "Yeah, that makes sense." But he also would have been able to identify the demon immediately, like, "Oh, half a face. Oh,
Hmm.
boom, that's the source. Oh, okay, cool. Piper, I'm gonna go get these potions ready. Phoebe, okay, let me write this vanquishing spell. Paige, let me sit here." And they were
Well, she got the
all
crystals. She
she did get the crystals, but she had to be told to get the crystals. She was just sat there, just said, "Do what you got to." It's no shade. The page was like she wasn't prepared because these girls didn't know how to prepare for this type of fight.
you know
I'm
what?
just being, I'm just being shady.
Well, no, I mean, I know that I just really want to say this to in this moment to that because I think you're right. They do typically have like one person that's an outlier. Like whether it's Piper, whether it's Paige, like especially I feel like this is still that era of the show where somebody is just sort of like there. Cause even when in season three, it would be like Phoebe's gonna go write a spell, Piper's gonna go do the potion, and then Prue's gonna do a flow chart. And it's shorts. What is that? Or like Piper's gonna go to the club and go check on that while Phoebe and Prue get ready. So I get what you're saying. I do agree with that. Like there is that because when they had them, when Piper's like, explain, whatever, and then Phoebe's like one fabulously written spell, and then Paige is like 5 crystals from north to whatever, and I was like,
And that
oh,
didn't even make any sense.
okay.
You got 5 crystals oriented from east to west.
It
Okay.
was it was giving very, look, mommy, I read the book you bought me. Like I don't know what my baby had going on. But no, I wanted to say that because I do think that that is something they struggle with is kind of like everybody having something that they've done to contribute to X, Y, and Z. And they didn't want to make it seem like, oh, just Piper and Phoebe are doing something. So they're like, Paige did this. It's a small moment, but I think it reflects the show a lot in the way that they view the sisters as a team, not just as sisters. But
Yeah.
Diamond
Because
has, oh, sorry,
I'm
sorry.
sorry.
No,
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 no, no.
no.
I was just gonna confirm, like, yeah, because I don't think that Paige didn't. I don't think she did not contribute. I want to make that very clear.
Oh,
Like, I
yeah,
was
no,
just being
absolutely.
funny because I definitely think that that was one of the most important things that we seen in the show.
And I'm being funny towards her because the thing is like, what really could
Galen,
he have, huh? You said what?
can anybody hear Galen or is it me?
Oh,
Hello?
can y'all hear me?
Oh, you're cutting out.
Oh God.
Are you
Was it
cutting out
me? Is
bad?
it
Yeah,
me
no,
or is it?
I couldn't hear anything.
Was it me or is it
Oh,
I
Galen?
didn't hear him.
can,
I didn't
can
hear
y-
Galen for a minute.
Okay.
can y'all hear me
Yeah.
now? Can y'all hear me now? No? Okay.
Galen?
We can hear you. We just
You
heard you
can
then.
you can hear me now?
Yeah, 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 we
Yeah,
can hear
we
you
can hear
now.
you now.
Oh my God, that's crazy. Oh, not Paige said, "Oh, you gonna talk about me?" Well, let me do this little one. Let me do the vanishing spell on you.
What do you think of my anti-orc spell?
That's
But
crazy.
that is her favorite spell.
It is. No, the only thing I was saying, and then Diamond can go ahead. The only thing I was saying was like, what really could she do? You know, because the big thing that we have to do is really make the potions for the demons that are going to be attacking because Piper doesn't have her power, and then write the spell for the sword. So kind of like, I think she contributed as much as she that was left, honestly. So, but no, Diamond had her hand up.
What I was gonna say is like in relation to Cole and kind of like how he sort of plays into this storyline and what we were just talking about with him and Phoebe. I feel like um kind of like along the lines that Mia's saying is like, the way that like Phoebe really by trying to subvert her premonition, she sets Cole on a path to becoming the source of all evil. And it's kind of similar to the same way in this in the source's goal to subvert the seer's vision, he ends up vanquishing himself and having to be reincarnated in Cole, and how those two kind of like converge, like and kind of smash into each other. Because like I was saying, like there is a reason why the seer sweet talked Cole, and I say sweet talked very loosely because we all know Cole was just jonesing to get some demonic power back inside of his body.
Mhm.
But the way that she had to like entice him into it and get his permission and his consent essentially for him to take in the hollow, it feels like that mattered. Because if she could just force it on him, why wouldn't she do that? She's evil, right? So why wouldn't she have done that if she could? And I think that that plays into kind of the idea that, like you were saying, that maybe she knew
Mhm.
what was going to happen with Cole because of what Mia's saying about how if Phoebe had just told Cole about her vision when it happened, then he could have immediately identified that as a source. They could have immediately understand, okay, it's about to go down today or, very, very soon. What,
Yeah.
let's get on the offensive. We have our spell. Like Phoebe just walked in here and said she has the spell. We have our plan. We have the crystals. Let's summon him. Let's do this. Or let's go to him where he is. Let's
Hmm.
do this. Let's make it happen.
Hmm.
And then they could have vanquished him, like Mia said, before he ever took the Hollow in and avoided all of this. And then Cole wouldn't have had to take the Hollow in order to protect them, right?
Hmm.
So Phoebe kind of does set him on that path by trying to avoid that because she wasn't being honest with him about her premonition. And I think, and like I said, I think there's something to be said about the fact that like the source was just like shoving everybody's face into the hollow box basically and forcing it on them without asking them, and that they they didn't get any residual. I mean, granted, they also got vanquished, so maybe that's what. Maybe I'm just trying to make a theory work that doesn't fit.
Well, no, I get where you're going. Because I think one of the things about evil that they have an innate understanding of is that enticement element, like, and because I feel like that's their way of still respecting free will to a certain extent. Like, yeah, they're evil. They're gonna kill people, they're gonna whatever, but they know that if you're going to actually stay there, you have to choose to go there, which is kind of like Tom choosing to go be to the Demon Academy, and then all you know what I'm saying? Like Tom's situation is a little weird because Prue made up in her mind that she was gonna save him, and then they said, "Yeah, Prue saved him." But anyway, but no, I get where you're going with it. I do, I get where you're going with it. Mia said that she feels like the seer seeing a clear image of possible future outcomes, and Phoebe seeing snapshots of one possible outcome. The seer definitely could have seen Phoebe opening that door. Oh, that's a good point. That's a good point because low key, quiet as it's kept, sometimes I wonder if I'm gonna shut up. I'd be wondering if Phoebe actually. I don't know. I'm gonna be quiet. I'm gonna hush because that is.
Didn't want to get married, so I don't know.
She did not. Phoebe did not want to get married to that man at all. I it almost makes me wonder, you know how like I joke about Raven, but you know how like Raven, they kind of said that she sees things that didn't they say something like that? Like she sees things that she low key makes happen, or she sees the results of something that could happen from her specific doing, or something like that. I want to say it was something like that, wasn't it? About like probability. I almost wonder if like Phoebe has that. And like the seer actually sees the future. Like the seer actually sees the future, but then Phoebe is seeing like if we don't get involved, this is what could happen. That don't make no sense.
Yeah.
Anyway,
The thing about Raven, I just to touch on real quick, the thing about Raven was they were saying that basically her getting the vision makes her act and do something, which is what makes the event happen.
yeah, okay, something like that. Okay, I
Yeah.
took the long route, but that's kind of yeah. Like I wonder if that's what Phoebe sees, and the seer is actually seeing the actual future, and that's the difference between the two of them. That's why the seer doesn't have to. She can touch stuff for it to be much more, specific, but you know what I mean? I don't know. Jim and then Mia have their hands up.
I love when you use my right name.
Jim
S-
Anthony and then Mia, sorry.
oh, oh. Did he have his hand up? We're supposed to go first?
Mm-mm.
Let me stop. No. Two things. I want to remind you, you wanted to talk about the cloak human code conversation, active power discussion.
Yeah.
But I wanted to respond to what you just said.
Okay.
It really, oh God, am I losing it? Oh my God. Oh my God. What, what was the general topic of what you just said? Why am I losing it?
Well, it did make no sense, no way. But I was just saying, like,
No, go
Phoebe's
ahead, go ahead.
something that Phoebe sees something.
Oh, I got it. I got it. I got it.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
So with premonition, it's very much a probability outcome, and they even talk about it. So you're not wrong with what I'm saying. They even talk about it in earlier episodes of Charm. It's just like there are certain probabilities, and we've changed outcomes before, and this, that, and the third. So I think it's probability outcomes because premonitions aren't even tied to just the future, right? So with being able to see different times in realms, I think that ties into her ability somehow as well. But with the seer, I think she's seeing the timeline that's at hand, which is why she didn't see anything in her vision where she says all death with the hollow, consumes everything. I think she sees the timeline that's at hand as opposed to Phoebe being having this interconnectedness with the universe, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
But she's seeing different realms, she's seeing different paths, she's seeing different probabilities that she can then change.
Right.
It doesn't seem like the seer can change the outcome, only see what path she's on or what path is being taken.
That makes
Um,
sense. That makes sense.
and I just want to say one more thing. I had a note from earlier. Is like if the seer saw this fully, right? If she saw the baby, why would she proceed? Because she would, if that means she would have seen herself, because she said she had her visions are clearer and more accurate than the oracle. So she would have seen the outcome of that baby, more or less, right? Like those are the probabilities. If she's seen what would have happened to her and that was all part of her plan, I don't think she would have continued if she saw her demise.
Well, see, that's where the part that always comes to my mind is when the Oracle said that when magical forces are at play. So that makes me think there's a big difference between being able to having visions of innocence and trouble and witches and demons and whoever else doing things because when good witches especially get involved, destiny can kind of divert itself really quickly. And so we even see that with Prue and the Angel of Death, right? When the Angel of Death was like, "Well, you on my list, but hey, it is what it is now." And then even when you see later on in season 7, when the sisters when Phoebe makes that deal to switch out Paige for the guy, um uh what's his name from A Christmas Story. So it's like I think that may be because the Oracle never really had like visions per se. She would say stuff like to me, I'm gonna say to me she didn't, because she would say stuff like, I see this, I see a witch, I hear a witch's call on spirit winds, and I see that they're gonna da 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 da. So to me,
I
excuse.
feel like she was more of a diviner.
Yes, like she was giving me very much divination. Um,
Hmm.
this is the highest likelihood. She could kind of see what was going on around her. She could see faces. She seems like that one who would be like, I don't know who this person was, but I keep hearing this name come to me when it comes to you, things like that. So hers were much more in the general sense, and I think that that may be why the source was using her at first. He didn't think that it was going to be necessary to pull out the big guns because the charmed ones are dead. So what's the point? I don't need them for these two witches that aren't even the charmed ones anymore. So hers seemed more like suggestions or a sixth sense, like an advanced version of a sixth sense, where the seer seemed like she was what Phoebe would be in vision wise, like she was actually having visions. And that might be, and really the stance, because I get completely where you're coming from with like the way that their visions work. And I feel like Phoebe being good, maybe they did. They only knew about the other sister because of the source. That's true. Because the Oracle like saw it and was like, yeah, there's another one. You didn't know that? Like she was very, but she wasn't having like because she was having because too she was having to use an external thing to have visions that we know of. Like she was having to use the crystal ball and like you said divination, where the seer is just like, I'm having a vision, I'm finna go full storm mode and go ahead and have a vision. But because it was they're like I said, Phoebe is having those visions about mortals and who are being influenced by evil, or their path is being influenced by evil, so they can kind of like intercept it. Whereas, like you said, the seer is just seeing maybe her path that she's on because she's able to choose to see that path. If you've ever seen, Steven Universe, Garnet has future vision and she's able to see multiple paths. So she's always seeing the different ways that things can turn out. So I kind of see it akin to like her, akin to Phoebe, where she's constantly seeing what could happen, like you said, and the seer is just like, this is what's going on. Now, the thing I want to say real quick, because Diamond, I see your hand is up, and I'm gonna let you. I just want to point this or say this one thing to add to what Jermaine Anthony was saying about the baby. I feel like because the magical forces were involved, that's why she probably saw herself succeeding with that plan, and she didn't see that there could be something that was gonna divert it. Because even with her seeing that there was gonna be nothing from the hollow, that was set in stone. Like that was fully that is what she was seeing. We saw her on multiple occasions in this same episode having that same vision of nothing, things being destroyed, or the source being destroyed. So every time something changed, I just completely lied. What That's not even what I was trying to say. What I'm saying is that she saw the source being destroyed because that's the future she was looking at. Then when that got diverted because he started pulling in some powerful magic, she sees the hollow and nothing being there because that's the future that was being taken. But once Phoebe had her vision and everything started happening with Cole, and then they started coming up with a plan to magically come after the source, then it's a whole other future. So I just feel like that's why she didn't see the baby because everything was kind of going once she got that ball rolling because she was making that happen herself. I think that's why the vision, like everything was kind of going according to plan. And then it was like, oh, okay, so wait a minute. What you mean you're not gonna drink the tonic? What you mean you're not gonna? So I don't know. I don't know. I'm reaching and grasping for straws. But go ahead, Diamond. Sorry.
I was gonna say that I think it makes some sense that like he didn't necessarily the source didn't necessarily start off with the seer because to some degree I think it probably has to be like we see that um as necessary and as desired as like the power of foresight is in general, people, demons at least, do not seem to like people who can tell the future. And they seem to be very suspicious of them, and they always feel like they're plotting on them. So I can imagine to some degree that while Source is trying to work with these people when he needs them, he probably doesn't like to keep these very, very powerful, seers and crones and even Kira, they don't like to keep them around
Not
because they're
an
like,
even
you
Kira.
can see in time.
Not an even Kira.
You know what I'm saying? Because well, the demons hated Kira. Well, she was selling them out, but even before then, it kind of seemed like, So
Yeah.
it's like, they don't really seem to like them that much because of the power that they can, like, them being able to sort of like set you on your path of your own demise, but make it seem like at first, it's not really because they can see so far into the future.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm.
to some degree, I feel like it's got to be like, let me start off low level so she can't take advantage of me. Okay, that didn't work. Let me level up one more, you know?
Right. Right. Especially against such a powerful enemy. I mean,
Yeah.
we were going up against the sea harmed ones. Child, we need to do everything we possibly can, especially as Paige became more versed in her powers. Speaking of powers, one of the things in this episode that happened that we wanted to discuss. But first, let me read what Jim Anthony. Jim Anthony said the seer probably saw that the source's plan was going to be of everyone's demise, but maybe didn't see past that because she hasn't acted yet. I could see that. I could absolutely see that. And I feel like the series is like she understands that any decision you make is going to affect things, and so she's very careful about what she changes. She kind of had to step in when everything was going away. Wait, can y'all hear me right now? Can y'all hear me? I just want to make sure.
No, you were cutting
Oh,
out.
you were going in and out.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Oh, child. Okay, my God. Okay, okay, Kim Fields.
My mic was doing the same. I need to check
Oh,
the planets. Let me
I think
see if Mercury's a retrograde.
I think it's my internet.
We had a huge alignment of planets the other day, so
Oh, did we?
Oh yes,
maybe
we
like
did. We
seven
really
planets all lined up.
Oh God.
because I think the seventh went into the alignment with the sixth, right?
hmm So it's like, yeah, it was like almost a portal, I feel like.
Yeah, no, it literally is. Yeah,
What are the what?
wouldn't you like to know?
I, I
The
don't.
void.
I don't think I do. Child, my nerves get bad. I be up here.
a a portal to
Bristol.
the timeline where my president is Kamala.
Child, I wish. I'd like to go through that portal, child. Oh wait, can y'all hear me? Oh Lord, I think I done froze up again. Can, can y'all hear me? Okay. Oh my
We can
God.
hear you
I
now.
can hear you now.
I had to switch over to my hotspot on my phone because it just went out. Like I guess the internet went out. I don't. mm. Okay. Anyway. Okay. All right. Let's just. mm. So the last thing that I wanted to kind of like dive into a little bit was the Hollow taking their powers. So one of the things that happened this episode was that the Hollow would absorb everyone's powers, right? But it only took their active powers. Now, my personal opinion and thought on that is that it would have taken all of their magic. Like, you ain't casting no spells, you ain't finna be making no potions, you ain't finna be nothing. Like, either I'm gonna take all of the magic from you or not. So that was kind of how I thought that it would work. Um, does anybody kind of want to share their viewpoint of the Hollow in that regard? Like, what did you think of it? Do you think that they utilized it well? Do you think they underutilized it? What were some of the things that maybe didn't make sense to you? Just whatever you think about it, like, feel free, throw it at me.
I feel like the Hollow was underutilized, but I feel like that was like purposeful on the power of like the source was so singularly minded in what he was trying to achieve that he wasn't thinking of how it could be used for anything more than just taking the Charm One's powers. So yeah, in that degree, I think it kind of was a little underutilized, but I do think it matches like kind of how unhinged and how like to the edge he was really pushing himself because of how afraid of like losing to them he was.
Mm-hmm.
So I definitely feel like it's that in that regard. But then yeah, I do to some degree wonder why is it that why is it that it only took the active power? That really doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
Mm-mm. Because if it just devastated everything to where, these two forces had to get together to try to take it down, it's like, so you telling me they only take an act? Maybe it was designed like that though. Maybe whoever, whatever. I always kind of saw the nothing as part of the hollow. Like maybe the nothing was a piece of the hollow that was taken and put in. I don't know. I'm making it up. Go ahead, Jimmy Anthony.
No, I was just going to say that exact same thing. Just that, I was thinking like this was the design of the Hollow, but if it came into existence by itself or whatever designed it, because it's pretty consistent across the board where it does only take the active power because we even see Cole shimmering. Like, so that always made me think that the seer sent him there, just like how she called him down. So, because if you, because he didn't have any powers at that point, he only was the Hollow.
Right.
So, like, and then you only attack with fireballs, you only attack with this one active power, you only attack with these active powers. So it just makes sense to that's how it was designed. That's what I was gonna say.
Yeah. The source, when you said that about like the source's powers, for some reason I always envisioned, and I mean they didn't do this, but I always kind of envisioned the source to be like the supreme, where he could manifest multiple powers. He just kind of chose not to. I mean, he did. That's not what I'm saying. What I mean is like I feel like because the source has such a wide range of powers, I almost feel like if they had said, yeah, he can shimmer if he wants to, or he can glamour, he can whatever the case may be, I would have bought that as the
What do
embodiment
you
of
mean? Because we see all those powers.
he didn't shimmer. When did he shimmer?
Well, not Shimmer, but he flames out.
Well, no, that's what I'm talking about. I'm saying like there's like a set thing that we know he can do. We know he can throw energy balls. We know he can flame out. We've seen him possess people. We know Cole, when Cole gets the source in him is kind of when we see the source cutting up, the source's essence, and we kind of see it pushed beyond what our source was doing with it because he was shape shifting into people. Yeah, he was summoning demons and stuff. I mean, but he could vanquish them without even with just a wave of his hand. I mean, he was the source clearly has a wide array of powers, but what I'm saying is like more specific powers that are like you would think
Well,
like
that leads me
Shimmer.
back to him not necessarily being a demon because, like you said, when Cole gets him, it's the source's power is a little unhinged. Maybe that could be due to Cordals. Who the hell's Cordal? Maybe that could be due to Cole's mortal half, but I don't know because that makes me think like, okay, you have access to all these powers and you love using witches' powers. Like you said earlier, he ate those witches' powers up. He ate Piper's powers up. He knew
Mhm.
exactly how to use them, what to do with them, and how he wanted to use them. And he executed that, flawlessly. But when it comes to certain demonic powers, that's interesting. That's really like a really open discussion right there. But it just makes me think to back to I bring it up all the time, like he may be of a different origin.
Child, don't make me cut up because I absolutely will say Melinda Warren stole his powers and then he became evil.
Not she was the original evil witch.
But I do wonder if, like, when we think about like the source, the half face source versus the coal source, we have to consider the fact that like Cole was a demon that lived amongst humans, right? So Cole may like so the source may have always had all the powers that Cole also had, right? And he was just like we didn't get to see the source using those powers because the source spent so much time around other demons that the source, you know how we talk about how they default, right? Like Piper was defaulting to freezing for a very long time with her defensive power, and then until even when she still had her freezing or her blowing up power, she was still defaulting to freezing, and then she kind of just stopped defaulting to freezing and everything, and she would just start blowing things up immediately. Like demons would shimmer in and she would start to blow them up. She wouldn't even freeze them first. So it's
Mm.
like we see people switching to what their default power is. So I feels like with the half face source, he spent so much time in the underworld with demons that all of the powers that he's gonna focus on exhibiting or think to exhibit first are going to be more of those type of demonic, defensive, very powerful, magical powers. Whereas Cole is, even as the source, is trying to find a way to institute his source, establishment above ground, right? He mentions that he like we want to be amongst the humans and have it above ground. That's why he's holding demon meetings in his condo. So I think that's kind of why we see a little bit more of the sort of like manipulative finessing powers from Cole because like he's amongst humans and he's defaulting to those powers quicker.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Because and I feel like Cole is the source. I feel like he had the opportunity to be more creative with it. Because he was having to cover his tracks in a way that the source wasn't. I'm gonna just, you know what? I'm gonna just call the source Anthony. I'm just gonna call him Anthony.
No, you're not.
Yes, I am.
That's too close to my name. No, no, you're not.
I thought that wasn't your name.
Whoever that man is, we're
Uh-huh.
not gonna
See,
relate
see,
we're
you
not
get
gonna
caught. You
relate
getting
those
caught up in your
names.
lie. Okay, so anywho, as I was saying,
You could call me Jim Cole.
shut up.
Oh.
Anyway, like I was saying, because it just feels weird calling him the source. I don't know. It just so Anthony when Anthony was the source. No, when Thomas was the source.
Tom
Oh no, 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 no.
Tom Riddle, yup.
No, when Jewel was the source, we're gonna call him Jules. When Jules was the source, um, Miss Thing here was very like just cooling for decades, centuries, however long that he was a source. Like he didn't have a reason to kind of like constantly be doing X, Y, and Z. I mean, like say by the time we meet him, he's is I'm gonna tell you what he's kind of giving me. He's giving me Robert Baratheon. If you've ever watched Game of Thrones, where like Robert was this warrior in his youth, right? Like he lived for the battle and the fight. And then when he became king, like his whole thing, he want for the rebellion, he wanted to become king, not necessarily because he wanted to become king, but because he wanted to oust the Targaryens. So as time went on, there's no more war, there's no more rebellion, there's no whatever, and so he just kind of, became there. He was just figurehead, and he was unhappy because he was just figurehead. So I feel like that's why the source is kind of like going down this rabbit hole of like, oh my God, you telling me I actually gotta work now? I'm like, sweet Jesus, I'm not used to this, child. I'm used to smiling and nodding and talking to people and whatever. Like I'm
I'm
not
talking to people.
child talking to people, child. He ain't used to all of it. He does look like a Gregory. You know what? We're gonna call him Gregory. When
This man threw a
Gregory,
tantrum. Gregory threw a tantrum this episode. He absolutely threw a tantrum this episode. He was like, "Wait, what? Pick up a pencil."
and then Mark said he looks like a Thomas. Thomas is perfect. His name is Gregory Thomas. In his human life before Melinda stole his powers. Y'all know I'm not letting that go. I'm gonna find a way to make that work.
You know he a Warren.
Uh,
That's in the book.
I feel like the prophecy of the Charmed Ones was supposed to come through his line, and then
Who?
Melinda stole the powers, and the prophecy came with them.
Not she's not even a real Warren. She stole their name.
I didn't say that. I didn't say that.
I said it.
Charlotte said it. But no, anything y'all do not understand. I know this is random and I'm not gonna spend no time talking about it, but y'all do not understand how bad I want Melinda Warren to have stolen those powers. Y'all do not understand how bad I want Melinda Warren to have stolen those powers. I think I started writing a fan fiction. I'm going to go back to it. Y'all do not understand how bad I want it to be true that that woman stole those powers.
I mean, her entry is a little wonky. It's a little questionable, and it's handwritten too. So
Uh-huh. Cause baby, that part where they said in her entry that Melinda Warren was working at Burger King and she wanted better for herself, and so she decided she was gonna start practicing three powers, and she went out and made it happen. And then
okay,
they
she stole
explained
three
to us
hearts
what
to
that
steal
meant.
three powers.
Before the passing of this hour,
I steal three
give me
powers.
all these folks' powers.
Mhm. Okay.
Ruth could never, and neither could Tuatha. Tuatha. Anyway, okay. Get back on point, Galen. Get back on task. Get back on task. Gregory here was giving me very much I'm not used to doing this anymore. I'm past that point in my life where Cole was having to constantly hide who he was, do stuff behind the scenes, go down to talk to the seer, glamour himself, vanquish the demons. He was always having to do something. His time as the source was never straightforward. And so I feel like that could kind of contribute too to why we see a wider array of powers from him because he had to kind of like stretch it to make what he was doing work.
I feel like he also knew what he was up against better than anybody else.
Mm-hmm.
So he knew like how to attack, certain things and like certain parts of their lifestyle. Even though other demons have tried, he just knew how to do a little bit better from his experience as a high-ranking demon, and then his experience as being intimate with the Hallows.
Mm-hmm. 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 Too bad they don't have dentists down there in the underworld. Well, y'all, I think that we have talked about this episode. I feel like we didn't really spend a lot of time talking about Paige, but we kind of got out what we needed to say about Paige earlier in the rewatch and how her story this episode was really good for her and gave I feel like it helped us give us a little bit more of her personality, who she was. And I think we had a pretty good. Jim Anthony said, "Do you want me to address the cloaking of Cole?" Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I only said that because as soon as they stripped Balthazar, they should have cloaked him in Cole. Because if he can be seen and then unknown who, like the demons know who he is, like that's still a threat to the trauma. That's all I really meant. Like they should have been able to cloak him as a human,
Yeah.
and and him not be visible to demons. But
No.
then that takes away the entire show. So maybe not.
Well, I mean, but they could have done it, and maybe a demon could see through it. Maybe like Cole
When
was.
you're right,
Maybe Cole
when you're
had
on
an
the rank like
amulet or
that.
something, or the demon had an amulet that helped him to see through witches' magic, and so they could see it. Um.
Or even vice versa. Like they gave him an amulet that protects him from the vision of demons or evil.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, and then somebody could see through that or break that spell.
Mm-hmm. Because I mean, it only makes sense because it's not like he left San Francisco. That's where he was based. I mean,
Oh, Mia said we know Leo can cloak people.
he
True,
sure
I
he
forgot
sure
about that.
can. He sure can. And that nigga,
He can choose
I
to
mean,
clock in when he wants to. He sure can.
and that man was sitting right there, and
Dying.
as he should have, he should have died.
Yep.
But he was sitting right there and said, "I guess I'll be all right." Because why don't they use that cloaking power more often? That should be. Let me shut up. Maybe it takes.
Piper wanted that man out of here. You saw the way she ripped that arrow through him?
She was laughing when she did it.
She did.
When
She
she
froze
said,
him in that moment so he could be in pain.
when she said, "Who's bossing him around now?" Girl, we get it, okay? You went to college, you learned about grammar and all of that. Okay, we get it. Who's bossing whom around now? Girl, shut up. Stop trying to talk like you better than us, please, for the love of God. Just because your hair looks really good, her hair looks so good this episode.
Oh,
Just
so
because,
good.
like, it
So
was
good.
amazing. Just because your hair looks good this episode, don't try to act like you better than me, Pippi. Okay? Because the source may have said it to Phoebe, but I'm gonna tell you to say hey to Prue for me. When you get down there, anyway, nope, because Prue is in heaven. See? Okay, on that note, I think it's time to go ahead. Time to go ahead, wrap it on up. Today was such a good discussion, and I think we had a really, really good conversation. So I am so grateful that we had a chance to get together tonight.
I too,
So
I always
good.
love
Yes, it was very
discussions.
good.
I'm glad that the episode stood up too because it is one of the best in the season.
Series. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely is it's one of the top ones for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I'm glad it held up too, because if it hadn't, I would have just I don't know. I don't know. I would have thrown a squirrel into some mashed potatoes.
Okay.
Okay, and
Right.
on that note,
Right.
y'all y'all have a good evening.
We're gonna head on out, y'all. Y'all have a
Bye.
good one.
Right.
Night, Galen and friends.
Good
Bye.
night.